Hello and welcome to No Idea.
I was not ready. I was not ready.
I thought you were kidding.
You jumped the gun.
I thought you were
It's okay,
kidding.
we're here now.
Yes.
We're here now, and we're going to talk about setting realistic expectations, which is hard to do because most people tend to either think that we ourselves are amazing or we don't see the good. And trying to find a good balance to listen to people and to know your strengths and your weaknesses, the ability to recognize that and really kind of accept that to make your marketing efforts much stronger. And it's something that, it is a constant struggle and it's a constant balancing act.
Absolutely. And, I think when a business or a brand, a company is looking to hire a marketing agency, doing a little homework on the agency itself or knowing kind of what a marketing agency can and can't do, because like you said, sometimes the expectation is unrealistic or, I think we do pretty amazing work, but we're not magicians either. So it takes time and effort and energy on everybody's part to make things work. So really kind of going into any kind of relationship, whether it's with a marketing company or anyone in general, communicating and keeping that line of communications open and, tweaking along the way, because as we've learned, whether it's the technology itself or the social media platforms, things change and they sometimes change pretty darn quick.
Very quickly. So again, the important thing is to know the reality of your product, your service, and those can be hard truths sometimes. We always bring the hard truths to the table because we don't like to set clients up for failure. If we create an advertisement or you create it internally with your team, it's something that you should address is to know realistically what you can offer and what your service or product is, because if you oversell it, what you're doing is you're creating a marketing campaign that is only going to lead to negative feedback and poor reputation earning merits, which is never a good thing. A couple of bad reviews after you put a lot of money, thousands of dollars into a campaign, a marketing campaign, you've got everything done correctly, but it oversells your product or services and you can't fulfill them, whether it's a product or a manufacturing shortage. Right now, that isn't a huge part because a lot of times we're selling products and the distributor cannot get them in or can't produce them fast enough. So you need to really take some hard truths before you put out. Everybody wants to see awesome marketing videos and campaigns. We all want that. We all deserve that. We work tirelessly to be able to provide awesome services. That's why you're in business. However, if that marketing effort promotes false advertisement, then the negative feedback will be something that you have to pay for forever. You put up a review on Google, those do not go away. They can get buried by other reviews, but Google has even changed their algorithm to where you can't bury them. So it's something that you always have to think about, and it's not fun. We always go into an account, being transparent, saying those hard truths, which, Kevin is much nicer about it than I am. I'm pretty straightforward. So he's, he fills in my gaps. So he says it with a smile at least, not me. I'm just going to tell it how it is.
Yeah.
But it is something that you have to accept because we don't have contracts. So even if we're performing everything that we are supposed to, if it leads to negative feedback, you're not going to have a good impression of us. If it's an internal person, their campaign has now led to a negative reputation. They're probably not going to have a job. So let's avoid all of that and look at setting real expectations, looking at those hard truths, knowing what you can actually deliver, and then look at marketing. Then you can kind of scale. And the other thing about scaling is budget.
Mm-hmm.
We see these great videos, and you can make a great video on a budget.
Oh, sure.
There's so much you can do just in putting dollars in the right places, and we can help with that.
Yeah.
But when you want, if you're looking at a comparable marketing campaign, you also have to think about the revenue that they're generating, how much money they are probably spending and allocating to their marketing budget, so to see how much they're spending. And if that's not realistic for you financially, then we need to bring it in a little bit.
Right. And, like Whitney had mentioned too, that realistic expectation also comes from the product or service or goods or whatever it is that you are trying to market. Is it comparable to someone that has, that bigger budget, those sleek videos, the ads that are popping up everywhere? If your services don't match up to what you're comparing yourself to, then you may be setting yourself up again for those negative reviews or the unrealistic expectations of what you can expect to achieve from your marketing efforts.
So those are the things that you don't want to do. We also know what you are facing as, the marketing manager or the owner. You're getting the proposals. You're getting hit up with marketing companies that promise you number one on Google. That is total red flag. I've said it before. I'll say it 5,000 more times minimum. Don't listen to that. It's a lie. Google themselves say that. There are lots of things that you can do on a budget, but again, you have to realistically look at your products, your services, your budget, and kind of find that middle ground. And magic, if you have not created content for 5 years, or you have a website that's 3+ years old, there are a lot of updates and security risks that you put in baggage and you are carrying along with you for your next employee, your next agency, your provider. And those things have to be addressed. They're behind the scenes. They're not revenue generating campaigns or billable items that are directly revenue streams. But those things have to be addressed. So if you have a gap in, you have turnover or something like that, please have a plan, or take some time now to create a plan on who is going to fill those gaps temporarily. We don't have contracts. We have stepped in for many accounts while they were hiring, just to keep everything relevant, make sure that there are no security risks or that we're setting somebody up for failure. You don't want to hire somebody just to have to fire them or hire again. So we can always step in to fill those roles. But if you have marketing coordinators or support staff that can jump in and just monitor those, take some time now to do some cross training. Put those procedures and policies in place and really know what happens if this person leaves, or if our agreement with this agency leaves. Do we have the logins? Do we have, colors and templates and style guides? Make sure that you have all of that available to you so that you never have a gap. Because even, with all of the changes and the updates and algorithm changes, even 2 weeks for an onboarding or hiring process, that's too long to not be somewhere, not be in front of your audience. It takes just a few days to fall out of the rankings for social media algorithms. So you cannot afford, and you deserve to stay there. You've put in the time, you've put in the money. So stay there. Just put these things into place now. So that's everything you shouldn't do, and then a couple of things that you should. But what you can do on a budget, you don't have to have huge budgets to be realistic.
No, not at all. And Whitney, one of the good points that she brought up too, and threw out a word that some folks may not be familiar with, is the onboarding process. I mean, that is a critical time where you get to know your agency or the team that you've hired, whomever is going to be doing all of this, and getting that branding guide and the style and the fonts and the colors, and making sure that everything is right, collecting photos and videos if you're doing the video route, and having that library built up and ready to go. So on day one, you're ready to go, and not then day two, you're stumbling and then trying to get out and get pictures and find something else. So always give yourself that time frame of a couple of weeks to get everything on. That's one thing I love about what we do, is that process that we go through with the clients and going through. And if it's communicating with previous agencies that they've worked with or previous team members and getting those passwords and knowing, okay, you have this channel already, but we need to establish this channel. And it just kind of takes a lot of that guessing work out.
And when you're setting expectations and you've got a lower budget or a smaller budget, there are things that you can and you should not do. If you're going to use stock footage or stock photos, you really need to take a closer look at those and make sure that they correctly match your product or your service. Because again, that can very easily become false advertising. Maybe one of your services that you typically have, you don't for whatever reason right now. Maybe it's safety, maybe it's renovations. Make sure that that's coming off of your marketing materials, your website, any place where it could be. Again, no false advertising, no negative feedback when somebody gets there and they expect something, or they call in, or they've even paid for a service that you no longer offer. So anytime you use stock footage, be very careful. Again, not saying that you shouldn't use them. It's a great tool to have, great resource. Just use it wisely and really look at it in comparison to what you do. There are animations, so maybe you've got maybe you're renovating, or you're going through some changes, or you have high turnover, you've got new management, whatever it is. Animations, they're a great option. They can put out the message. They're appealing, and there's no place or face, but they can still make an impact.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is knowing, as you're setting those expectations and what you are wanting to do, what are your policies or procedures when someone leaves the team and is no longer part of what your marketing efforts are? Do you, some choose to scrub that person and that footage, those videos, those images, and that's where Whitney said, an animation is a good way to throw something in there that's not going to necessarily tie an outside face with your brand or whatever it is that you're trying to get out there. So knowing, the expectations of the agency and what you want them to do in terms of helping you rebrand or relaunch or whatever, if you're coming off of something like an employee turnover rate or something.
Or rebranding, whatever it is. You have to always communicate, and even if we keep talking a lot about with an agency or provider, but with your internal team member, you hire a marketing director or coordinator, and they're going to come with ideas and a style taste that they like, fonts and emojis and all of those things, that are they're kind of tied into personal preferences.
Yeah.
But if that doesn't match your brand, you have to, and this is the importance of your branding and style guide, is you already have a voice established. So it doesn't matter who comes in, what age they are, what their preferences are, what their favorite color is, anything like that, because you have an established brand voice. You know what you're going to sound like, the fonts that you use, the verbiage, all of that is established. So anybody can step in and do those things for you seamlessly. So people on the outside, they don't know who's posting because everything is cohesive.
And that has been one of the important things I think that we do is most people don't know that we're the ones doing the posting or coming up with the designs or producing the videos or coming up with the graphics and the animations and the images. And that's the way we like it. Clients pay for that marketing and that branding, and it's going to look like they're doing all of this. So that's an important part of it too, is making sure that who you're working with they're not going to inject themselves in. If you don't want that, again, that's where that open communication and that establishment of expectations comes into place. Because sometimes the lines get blurred, and it's better to right up front establish this is the way it's going to be, and we're paying for this good or service, and not for you to promote yourself in the process.
And there are opportunities where you may get some free videos or photos, and at that time you need to credit, and that's usually negotiated in the beginning. All those terms are set, but in general, if you are paying for a service and you are not getting a special rate, you are paying for the service. All of that content belongs to you. You own all of the rights, and for anybody to share or take credit for that work, they need to be getting explicit permissions for that. I am a firm believer that when a client pays for something, it belongs to them. We become part of their team. We're not doing it for ourselves or our self-promotion. We're a marketing company. We can do that in other ways. And even with internal employees, you need to. That's something to watch out for, because if they're promoting your brand and sharing everything which you want, but then the next post, is full of curse words or very opinionated statements, then you may want to take a step back. And to prevent that, again, policies and procedures, transparency and open communication on what is expected, you can prevent all of those things. So just and all of those require taking a hard look at the systems and policies that you have in place, your services, your brand, and those are uncomfortable conversations, but they need to happen, and they need to happen often.
Yeah, and that's another good one too, is that expectation of should people on your team be sharing your post on social media? We have some clients that encourage it and incentivize it because it helps everyone involved, and some employees don't feel comfortable doing that, and it's a delicate line, and I'm not going to throw out any legal advice on that end of it. But
you're not an attorney.
I'm not an attorney.
I didn't know.
No,
that.
I'm not. So but I've talked to some clients just in this past week about some of their frustrations with their employees not sharing posts, and their point was it's going to help all of us if you share this. So
but you have to communicate.
Yeah, you have to communicate it, and you can't, I guess, make someone do it. But I'm certain that we do have folks that are incentivizing it and rewarding employees that do. So
yeah, just again back to open communication, knowing that if your business grows, the more exposure your business gets, the better and healthier financially you are to continue to offer employment, to grow, and provide futures for all of your employees. So take some time to look at your policies, your procedures, make sure you have a backup plan and that somebody is cross-trained. Do a content library check, make sure that you have a branding guide and style guide. All of that is easily accessible in a shared folder that everybody has access to. If you need help organizing those or just creating them, let us know. but it's a good time for a check-in and to do some of those hard looks. We also do consulting, so if you need a little bit of a reality check, or you want to make sure that everything is in alignment with, the marketing world or your competitors, we have lots of resources for that, and we can